The Holler Kings, where the horror's Southern fried.
Hello, I'm Craig,
And I'm Adam.
and we're the Holler Kings.
The motherfucking Holler Kings.
It's true. We're two Southerners talking about Southern horror.
Yes, sir.
Adam,
Yes, sir.
what's the Southern horror film we're going to be discussing today?
Man, I gotta tell you, we are gonna have a long night tonight because we are reviewing 12-hour Shift.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell him who did this. You killed an innocent man for no reason. I'm just gonna have to solve this problem myself.
I'm not leaving till you give me a kidney.
Brea Grant.
Texas native.
Yes,
This is set and filmed in Arkansas.
it is.
So this is an excellent choice. This is
That's all I make.
this is a new movie from 2020. It's available on Hulu. If you want to check it out before you listen to our discussion.
Nailed it.
This is one of those things where you watch it and you can't help but think of your own experiences working 12-hour shifts, because we totally just had like an hour-long conversation
Yeah.
about work and, shared experiences on 12-hour shifts. So that says something about the alchemy of this movie, I would say. That's pretty
sure.
effective. Yeah. When did you first hear about this? Why'd you bring it to the table?
This is one of those that kind of, I'm sure it was an interview with Brea Grant or something where they mentioned it, and so it's all kind of been on my radar since then. I knew it dropped on Hulu, and I just hadn't got around to it. And here recently, I was like, you know what, I need to, sit and watch that. I don't watch Hulu as much as I should, especially since I have a subscription to it. Mainly because they won't give an annual subscription for without ads. They only do it with ads, and I hate ads.
Right.
So I don't watch Hulu as much. So I hadn't gotten around to it, and I finally was like, I need to get around and watch that because really like Torn Hearts and like Brea Grant overall. So I was like, and I knew it was shot in the South, so I was like, you know what? I know what will get me to watch it. We'll do it for the podcast.
I didn't realize you'd never seen it before.
Yeah, no, it was the first
nice.
time.
Yeah, same here.
And this movie is about a woman, I believe, Mandy.
That is her. Yes.
Yes, I only remember it because as soon as they said Mandy, I was like, oh, that's similar to May, because
Right.
this is, of course, played by Angela Bettis, and she is a nurse going on to her shift, the start of her shift, 12-hour shift. She is, I guess, a drug addict who, I guess, uses the money she gets harvesting organs to the black market to play. Hold on. Harvesting organs on the black market to pay for her addiction. So yeah, and then after one of the organs goes missing, shit hits the fan, bodies start piling up, and it's up to her to kind of try to rein everything back in.
Yeah, she has a accomplice at work that's played by Nakia Gamby Turner.
Yes.
Her name is Karen. And yeah, they basically conspire, they collaborate on the best candidates to harvest organs from that people won't really notice because maybe they don't have families, or maybe it's a certain type of death that, no one's really going to check
Right,
the bodies
yeah.
that much. My thing is, and I don't mean to overanalyze this movie because I don't think it's that type of movie.
Yeah.
Where you're really supposed to think about the logistics or whatever. One thing you didn't mention, it's set in 1999.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's close to, Y2K fears and stuff like that. That's like a little mild subplot and an explanation as to why they don't have a large police presence, because apparently like all these like emergency personnel are training into some kind of Y2K preparedness seminar or something like that. So it helps explain, some of the weird deficiencies in the hospital that night. The scheme to harvest these organs, it can't be for organ replacement, right? Like, they're not harvesting organs to literally put the organ in someone else.
I mean, I believe that's the goal, but they go about doing it horribly. Those organs would not last.
I mean, I guess that's part of the joke a little bit, because this is, it's kind of a Dixie Mafia scenario where these guys probably shouldn't be dealing in organs and stuff. But for one thing, they store the organs in just a regular lunch cooler
And use cans of Coke
to keep it cool, which is funny. It's a fun gag.
Yeah.
But also the organs are harvesting from people. They're from
Sick people.
So I question, and sometimes they kill them in methods where I think it would ruin their organs also. Like if you kill someone with bleach, I would think that wouldn't be good for their kidneys.
I mean, I'm no doctor, but
Same.
I would think probably not. But it never goes into anything specific about why they need the organs, but you assume that would be the only reason. And maybe it's one of those things that they don't really care as long as they get the money for the organs. They don't give a shit if they are not good or not. They just want to get the money. I mean, you would think that would eventually come back to bite them in the ass. But
yeah, I there was a part of me that was like, I wonder if it's some kind of weird cannibalism thing.
Could be something like that.
Even then that's kind
I
of gross.
probably don't want to eat,
kidneys
that are covered in bleach and everything.
Right, or people that were terminally ill.
Yeah.
A minor thing that stuck in my head was that, where it was this kind of like anytime they had them in the Ziploc baggies and stuff, I was just like, oh, I don't know. But, it leads to a lot of fun hijinks. And
it does.
And in fairness, again, this is a heightened reality that I don't believe you're supposed to really take it very seriously in terms of, that would never happen, that type of thing, Yeah. It's kind of a throwback to a classic slasher type scenario.
For sure. This movie could very much be in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It kind of fits that tone of just that yesteryear of where you didn't have to be like, I need everything explained to me in great detail of what everything means. It's just like, oh, this is what's going on? Okay. Yeah, sure. Jason has to fight off against a Carrie-like character. Sure. Why not?
Sure, yeah. And I thought Bettis was really great in this.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I liked her performance.
Always.
And
I really like her.
Right off the bat, I liked her. Just how she was talking they have a great opening scene where she's talking to a coworker that gets to go home and she's about ready to go in, to the 12-hour shift. And you can just see the animosity of that relationship, which, if you're only doing that fly-by-night style, like one person is free and the other person's about ready to go in, you're never really going to, be super good friends or whatever.
Yeah. And I think she plays it really well of fuck, I don't want to do this.
Sure, yeah.
She plays it so good.
It's a wonderful scene because I feel like anybody, no matter what kind of job you work, no matter what kind of hours you work, we all have that feeling of the inevitable doom of having to step through the doors and put up with it for X amount of hours or whatever. Even if it's not a hard job or whatever, there's still that feeling, And I thought they just captured that lightning in a bottle style, her acting and the script and everything. It was great.
You could tell they've worked some 12-hour shifts before. They know how it goes.
I guess filmmaking has versions of that too, where it's just a grind.
Yeah. It's not as glamorous as it always seems.
And I will say, not kind of going back to the theme of this podcast, Bettis is from Texas, and I felt like she was very authentic in her southernness, meaning she more or less sounded like a regular person.
Yeah.
There are little inflections and little moments, but she didn't pull a Robert De Niro, if you will, with her.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Where he claims he authentically recorded Southerners to get his accent for a certain movie we might be talking about soon. Yeah. Anyway.
Pretty sure it was a cartoon, but sure.
But no, she does great. It's one of those movies where, it's set in the South and it has a Southern feel in a lot of ways, but most of the cast are from outside of the South. She's one of the only ones, I do think, David Arquette is from Virginia, technically.
Which was nice to see. I didn't know he was in this movie.
Yeah.
That was a surprise. I was like, oh, hell yeah.
He's a producer and everything.
Yeah.
So he must have gotten in on it pretty early somehow. Yeah. I thought he was great.
I did
He's a lot
too.
of fun.
He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he shines whenever he's on. It was nice to see him, and I didn't expect to see Mick Foley either.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
cool.
That was a fun moment.
Yeah, I was like, Mankind's in this movie?
It's why I'm not a huge wrestling guy, but I remember seeing that documentary Beyond the Mat.
Oh, yeah.
From the late 90s. And I'll never forget, Mick Foley was still a very young man. And there's a sequence where he goes to the doctor and they tell him, you have the hips of an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, you are not going to be able to walk soon without some kind of intervention and blah, blah, blah. And then it cuts to him doing like some crazy match, a couple weeks later where you're just like, yeah, this guy's like running himself into the ground. So you just see him 20 years later and, he's still out there doing stuff. It's like, I'm glad that, whatever measures he had to take, that he's still at least able to like, get around and everything. Because now he has the hips of a presumably 100-year-old man.
I would say so, yeah.
It's not a fun thing to deal with.
Yeah.
Tell me about kind of the escalation of this, because this is like a spinning plates movie where there's just one at first and there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and at the end it's like
it's like when are they gonna crash?
Right.
Yeah, which they crash pretty quickly because it basically it all starts with she passes off the organs to her one of her accomplices who is her cousin by marriage. They stress that a lot.
I thought that was a very Southern thing too. By the way.
For sure,
that was a nice touch.
Yeah. And this so-called cousin of hers is, to put it succinctly, she's a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah.
And so she forgets the organ, and after discovering that she does not have the organ to deliver to the scary gentleman played by Mick Foley and others, she panics to go back to the hospital and get another one. Like, hey, could you get another one off the shelf there? And so, it just becomes this whole kind of game of how can I put, for Mandy, how can I put out this fire? Now I got to get this kidney for her. And then we got issues with, my cousin killing people left and right to try to get a kidney and pulling out like bladders and everything. It gets off the rails pretty quick. And it's mainly the cousin that does most of it.
Well, I thought it was a great gag where, the cousin at one point gets so desperate that she just literally murders a random person.
Straight up, just like, hey, guy, come here.
Right. There's a skater kid in the parking lot, and she murders him, cuts out a body part, puts it in a Ziploc bag, and then, a little bit later in the movie, Mandy, the main character, she points out, she's like, this isn't a kidney, this is a bladder.
Yeah.
You didn't even get the right, or you killed this guy and didn't even get the right organ on top of it. But I mean, a layperson, it probably all does look pretty close. Like, even though they sound like they would be totally different, looking, I bet if they're covered in gore and it's nighttime, you would just be like, yeah, this is good. This is it.
Yeah.
Let's throw it in there.
That'll work.
The further compilation, there's a further complication when David Arquette's character enters the scene.
Yes.
We have an inmate that needs medical care. And, he's brought into the facility, for whatever reason, he only has like a rent-a-cop protecting him, I guess, presumably because of this Y2K convention. So they don't have any real personnel.
So, yeah.
And so he's very under supervised. There's a couple other kind of wacky, I guess, residents or patients rather.
Yeah, some patients and the other nurses.
Yeah.
Because, you got that one patient who has nothing wrong with him, but is constantly asking for a bed.
It like opens with that guy almost.
Yeah, it does,
really,
basically.
A fun character, yeah. and hypochondriac that they've probably encountered many times. So they're just kind of like pushing it off as much as they can. Yeah. But the guy, he won't take a hint, and he's, wandering around the facility.
I am sick. I need a bed.
And he was always like, it's stuffy in here. I'm going to go outside. Like, there was always some excuse to go outside.
And then you got characters like, we have, after bodies start piling up, we have the bumbling buffoon cop coming in to try to figure out what's going on. And it's just like pretty much him. And he's kind of useless.
Right, right, yeah. Very ineffectual. And yeah. Then you have the Dixie Mafia style guys resurface. To
he's got to send, because he tells Mandy's cousin that she needs to be back an hour, and if not, he's sending his goon after her.
Drag her back by the hair.
Yeah, drag her back by the hair. And so he sends her after him, and do you remember the cousin's name? I forget it.
Oh, I have it written, Regina.
Regina.
The actor is Chloe Farnworth. I might be saying that wrong.
Who was great. Yeah. She was fucking hilarious as Regina.
Well, you know where she's from?
Where?
England.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, I did not clock it at all that she wasn't from...
She's a comedic character, so she can kind of push it a little bit further and everything with the
she's got a bigger accent
Yeah.
than some of the others, but yeah, it kind of fits with her just because she is sort of just a heightened character in her kind of like buffoonery and her accent down to everything. She's kind of just not over the top, but just heightened.
I thought they also dressed her very well for like a late '90s blonde.
That's another. I thought the fashion in this was very '90s. Yeah. From what we see, especially with like her and a few of the the skater dude and all that, it felt very 1999.
No, they did a great job.
I'm not gonna say I did, but I probably looked very similar to that skater dude in 1999.
And
I had my Boss jeans and my Jinkos and Pacos and all that good stuff.
And one thing that I love about this, and it's probably a budgetary thing, but it's a blessing, is even though it's set in 1999, pretty sure they never use any 1990s music, like pop hits.
I don't think,
and stuff like that.
It probably was just because couldn't afford any of it. But it's not riddled. Like, I like the Fear Street movies, but it's not riddled with like 90s music like that was. And or you can do it with any of these like period pieces where they just tack that music on to basically every scene. And there isn't really, there's not a lot of emphasis to it being 90s. I think that's what makes it look so 90s is that it's not, heightened like if it was early 90s, be like a lot of neon and grungy type stuff and flannels and holes in their jeans and all that type of stuff.
But it's not like, and I love all this stuff too, so I'm not trying to pick on it too much, but like Stranger Things or, what you're talking about with Fear Street, those are like the greatest hits for nostalgia. So they'll make sure to go, hey, you remember Yoo-Hoo? And you know what I mean? Like they'll try to like product placement style and make you have a feeling for that time. And it's very inauthentic in a weird way.
Yeah. The biggest issue with that stuff is even though you can enjoy it and have fun with it, you're taken out of it because you can tell that it's a present day movie shot to be period.
For sure.
Where something like this feels very authentic, like to where it could almost be shot in 1999.
Well, for sure, because I mean, like, let's be real. Like, a movie actually made in its year, they don't do that stuff. Like, they don't feel the need to emphasize things or whatever. And they definitely don't have access to like the greatest hits of that era or whatever. You know what I mean? There'd be songs specific to the movie or whatever. And I do think that's why this movie plays so strong, because it feels like 1999 without serving it to us. Yeah. And the Y2K talk I thought was fun, and it was kind of peripheral instead of just like shoved in your face over and over. I thought it was like really well handled and a very tight script for someone that probably had a very, very modest budget. I don't want to say micro budget, because I mean they still had some names in this.
Yeah, and there was some cool effects and all that.
There were a few moments where I did feel like the cinematography fluctuated a little bit because sometimes it looked straight up like film almost to me. Like it looked very authentic, not authentic. It looked very like a professional film made by a big studio. And then sometimes it looked straight like video, like almost like, a modern trauma movie or something. Like it kind of like, I guess it depended on the alchemy of the lighting and the location sometimes. Yeah. And it may have even been a stylistic choice. I'm not really sure. But I mean, overall, I thought for such a modest budget movie, it's like very legit and felt, you know what I mean? Like it could stand on its own with like any, theatrical movie or anything like that. So
yeah. Man, I really loved this movie. I had such a blast with it. It's just one of those movies that you shut off your brain and you just enjoy how everything unfolds. And it's filled with all these, we were talking about, filled with all these fun characters. You got, like I said, Regina, the bumbling, dumb cousin by marriage that does nothing but get in her own way and unfortunately get in Mandy's way. You got Mandy, who's almost the straight man, like comedically in this movie, because almost everyone else around her, the only other person I would say really that isn't kind of bringing a comedic effect to it, that's kind of more grounded, would be her accomplice, the woman you mentioned her earlier, that
Karen is the character name.
Karen.
Yeah.
That's the only other one that kind of feels like the straight man to all of it too. Everybody else, even you got like a few nurses, I don't even remember the name. You got one that keeps getting like, I guess it's almost like her, I don't know what it'd be, like maybe like a RN or something that kind of tells them what they need to be doing. It kind of sets up.
Yeah.
You got her, and then there's another one who's kind of like that token white Christian woman, that you would see in the South.
Kind of a busybody too. In everyone's business and stuff. Yeah.
Then you got Arquette, and as the inmate and his security guard, and I don't know. There's just you just have the straight woman, comedically surrounded in this kind of out there type of environment, and her just trying to navigate it, and all these characters keep coming in and out of frame to just kind of shit all over everything that she's done to try to get everything back in place. I don't know, it was just really fun and just hit the ground running, and it doesn't stop till the end.
I totally agree. I was kind of shocked by IMDb and, Rotten Tomatoes and all that stuff, like audience score style, or it's kind of modest and to the low side. And I was a little perplexed by that because I don't really know what people think they're getting into.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of sets the tone very quickly. So if it's not your lane, you would easily just, kind of bail out on it.
Right.
I don't know if people thought it was going to be a little bit more of a traditional, like, Scream style horror movie, like a crowd pleasing, bombastic horror thing. And it's really more of a subdued, almost like work satire with horror elements.
It's almost like a horror version of Office Space or something.
Yeah, or like Clerks or something. Yeah. It has Office Space is a better example for sure. So yeah, like I feel like if you have the right, and I'm not telling people how to watch movies, but you know what I mean. If you're in the right headspace for this, I can't see how it wouldn't work for you. You know? I just thought it was expertly done.
That's the only
really
thing I could, because I know I've been guilty of that, like watching a movie and expecting something else and not enjoying it just because it wasn't what I expected it to be. But then you can go back and watch it and kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what they did. I enjoyed this or whatnot. Sometimes you go, oh no, it was still shit. But yeah, no, this movie is really good and it's a lot of fun, and it's down the dialogue and everything hits well. It moves smoothly, and other than, like you said, some you got to suspend your kind of disbelief a little bit with it. But like I said, you can do that with most 80s movies. it does really well what it sets out to do. So yeah, I don't see how you couldn't enjoy it if you know what you're getting into. And this is just something that you don't like, because it does have that kind of humor of everybody in this is kind of gray. There's no black and white type characters in the sense that there's no good and bad. It's just kind of this gray area of people. So
I'm really happy that, am I saying her name right? Brea Grant.
Brea
Grant. I'm really happy to have discovered her early-ish in her directing career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now we've on this show we've done Torn Hearts and now 12 Hour Shift, and she's still a young director, your age ish, right?
Yeah,
She's
I think
like
she might
maybe a couple years older.
I was gonna say younger, but maybe older.
But I mean that's kind of beside the point.
That she's in her 30s.
Yeah,
I
just mean she's younger.
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure. She's not 60.
Yeah,
so been directing for a while and whatnot.
And there's a chance that she's going to level up soon, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like her getting a little bit more of a substantial budget and getting to kind of swing for the fences a little bit more. Torn Hearts is kind of like the in-between, because it felt like a little bit more of a heightened, it's a step up from this movie in terms of budget and everything. But again, it had to be pretty tight. It was like in one location, like this 12-hour shift was.
Very limited,
So I'd like to see her be able to do something a little bit more unleashed, but we shall see. It's cool to like discover people you can follow for a while, and you know what I mean. You're not looking back on it; it's like in the present.
Yeah.
So, trying to think, and I can't think of anything that was a drag for me on this. Like usually I have some kind of criticism, but I felt like the runtime was appropriate. Mm-hmm. I love the closing credits. I thought those were terrific, where you discover, like Mandy like literally sleeps in her car because it's not worth it to go home. It's just kind of like you just sleep and then get up and go through this crap all over again.
Which I've never done, but I totally get that being I'm just gonna sleep. Yeah, and then just getting up to go back to her next shift. Yeah.
And it's funny too that she had such a crazy shift, but just the way the world works, she still has to show up for work the next day.
Yeah, still got to work the next day.
You know what I mean? You think
still
of all the stuff
money.
she went through,
Yeah.
but she's still going to be like, I'm on probation. That's another thing. I don't know if we mentioned she's on probation for probably drug use or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it's internal. It's not like a criminal thing. It's just at work, they're kind of keeping an eye on her. So you get the idea that like, even though she's going to all these limits and maybe she's kind of like downplaying it, it's actually kind of what do you call it? She's in jeopardy a little bit.
Right.
Like her back is against the wall, and it would kind of explain why she's in this harvesting scheme to make some extra scratch. And it's funny too. I thought of a Dementor just a little bit as well, where it has that kind of feeling of, people being forced into lanes of work where a lot of us, like there's even a scene in 12-Hour Shift where the cop it tells Mandy, like, I can never do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, it's in a scene where she's literally covered in blood and guts, and you know what I mean? It's a heightened scene, whatever, but...
which is a great scene.
Oh, it was
great. It's hilarious. He bursts in, "Priest, motherfucker!"
That was another, like, kind of subplot, or what do you... kind of a motif, I guess, was ineffectual men. Like there's a lot of men with authority that are just... total straight up buffoons.
Yeah.
The Rent-A-Cop I thought was a really funny conversation where he's trying to describe all the other events that he gets to do, and he's trying to he's trying to make it sound cool,
nothing,
but it's just not. It's just like sad, I forgot what band it was, but at one point he was trying to impress Mandy. Oh, Marilyn Manson. He was like, he's like, you like Marilyn Manson? She's like, no, not really. And he's like, yeah, they kind of suck. They kind of suck. But I got to do security there, And then he even brings up the urban legend of like ribs removed so that he could go down on himself.
Which is very 90s. Yeah.
Very 90s. I mean, like that was such a prevalent rumor. It's hard to look back on and think, how did people believe this stuff? Like, they thought that the kid from Wonder Years became Marilyn Manson.
And then took out his ribs to suck his own dick.
And like... how would that even... I mean, I guess Marilyn Manson's the type of person that would, like, tell people that. It's like, yeah, I totally did this.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I guess.
I mean, it's just a very bizarre...
like, that somehow would make it possible to do? I mean, I don't know.
Sure you don't know.
I ain't got the money to remove my ribs. Otherwise, I would have done it.
There's that classic Saturday Night Live sketch where it's like a yoga class...
With Will Ferrell.
Will
Oh my
Ferrell.
God, I
And
forgot about that
yeah,
sketch.
where he has that moment where he's like, I finally did it. I finally been able to stretch enough where I can do this. And he's doing it like in the class. That's another one of those things that I don't think they could do now. It's too much. It's a little too far. But
I can't believe they did it back then.
I know.
Because
He's literally going down on himself.
It's literally a sketch of him going down on himself. Holy shit! I forgot
and just
about
talking
that.
about the ecstasy of being able to do it and. Oh gosh, that's so immature. I love it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, like again, that was like dialogue driven. It's not like, again, I'm picking on stuff, but Stranger Things, there would literally be a guy with like a Marilyn Manson like magazine or something, and like you would hear the beautiful people, and you know what I mean? Like it would just be so overdone. And I'll never forget in fucking Fear Street when they start a fire and fucking fire starter started. I was just like, they're not doing this. They cannot be on the like, maybe that's part of the joke is like how on the nose it is. It's like the characters are starting a fire and they have fire. And then it only lasts for like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's like you're literally just throwing that in to get that, like, the what do you call it? Endorphins.
I guess, yeah.
Anyway, let's stick the landing. Anything else you want to say, or before you grade it?
Oh, I guess, I mean, we can kind of get to, I mean, there's not a big, like, this isn't a movie that you can really spoil, I guess.
So much stuff happens.
Yeah,
and it's almost
there's so much going on, and none of it's like, oh my God, the twist or anything like this. So really just anything we could tell you is just like, oh shit, I gotta watch that. Because as we mentioned, one of the organs goes missing, and then the next organ goes missing because they just keep, I don't know why they keep leaving it by the door, but I completely forgot that the organs had went missing because so much shit happens that when it comes back around to reveal who had been taking the organs, I was like, oh shit, that's right.
Right. I mean, you have.
What'd you think? Did you see that coming?
No, I had no idea what was going on. I really didn't know what was up.
Yeah, I assumed like they had just got like thrown away or something. But to reveal, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess, the hypochondriac, it was going to the Coke machine and finding them and taking them. And
well, that's the only like issue with that, obviously, is that he's found 2 bags of organs.
yes.
And only comes up to an authority figure after the movie is
very
over.
end, yeah.
Like, this character would have immediately, as soon as he found the first one, would go to that front desk and go like, I found this. So that's the only thing that was kind of a, I mean, I guess we've established that he is maybe not right in the head. So maybe it's like he would just linger with that stuff for a long time. But I would think he would just immediately go straight to that desk. So it doesn't make that much sense. But,
But then again, after all the lights and everything starts going out and the waiting room becomes crowded, maybe he's just like, I'm going to sit outside for now.
Could be. That's fair. Well, let's grade this one. What do you give it?
I will give this easily, without a doubt, I'm going to give it a A+.
Really?
I love this movie so much. I could see my kind of scale for grading would especially be, is it rewatchable for me? And I could see myself rewatching this one over and over. It was just so much fun. And I love Angela Bettis in anything. She's so great. I love all the side characters. This is just one of those great movies that are just filled with all these memorable characters. And so it's why I love something like Friday the 13th Part 5 so much.
Sure.
There's just all these memorable characters. It's a lot of fun. This movie was funny and dark and fucked up. And, I just loved it.
I'm going to skew a little lower and give it like a B+, because I thought it was really, really well made and really good. But I have to acknowledge it probably wouldn't be for everyone. I feel like an A+ movie for me needs to be like something that would have mass appeal, kind of.
Yeah.
Or be super personal to me. And this one doesn't quite hit either one of those. But it was definitely, upper tier, indie movie with an original voice, an original premise, and I would totally watch a sequel if they decided to do another 12-hour shift.
13-hour shift.
Yeah, for sure. Pick up where it left off, or just a whole nother scenario, whatever. But Good stuff.
Yeah, because I love that it wraps up. This movie almost wraps up like a sitcom where basically everything is back to the same.
Yeah,
as
the
we
table's been
started.
reset.
Yeah.
For sure. You have Mick Foley, jaunt back into it kind of implies he's going to handle things personally.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Other than a couple of characters who are no more in the movie, yeah, like everybody else is kind of like, okay, yep.
Yeah.
We hit the reset button and we'll start over next week. So that's it. What is it? Like a B?
No, I gave it a B+. You gave it an A+. I would say that'd be like a straight A, right? Just like a solid A.
That sounds good.
So yeah, definitely a big recommendation from the Holler Kings, 12-hour shift, available to watch on Hulu. Check it out.
Watch that shit.
On every episode of the Holler Kings, we do a little segment called Holler at Your Boys.
Holler at your boys, y'all.
It's true. This is Open Topic, where we bring anything to this big old table.
Anything and everything, baby. Just flop it down on the table.
I'm gonna flop it down first. I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of the last great classic era monster, the Universal monsters. This would be Rico Browning, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. I'm a little shaky on it because it's a really unique, name, Rico. I think that's right. But he played the creature from the Black Lagoon in all 3 installments of that series. He was always the underwater version of the creature because he had a special talent of being able to hold his breath for up to 5 minutes.
Oh, damn.
Underwater. And he also kind of helped spearhead a lot of techniques for underwater photography. He kind of became almost like a Jacques Cousteau type of figure where he became based in Florida and did a lot of he created Flipper for television. He was involved in a lot of underwater stunts for James Bond movies in the 70s.
Oh, nice.
So, he was a really substantial guy and had a lot of bona fides or whatever. But, obviously Creature is Gilman is a very iconic movie and character. So he was always kind of identified with that.
Right.
And he's the only person to play that character all 3 times because the land version was always played by a bigger man because Rico was I think he's 5'9" or something.
Yeah.
Kind of a smaller guy. So they would get a huge dude to play him on land to kind of be more imposing and stuff. But if you watch those films, I mean, the way he swims underwater is just, it's beautiful. I mean, that's part of the alchemy of that character and why someone like Guillermo del Toro fell in love with it. And it kind of ripples through his movies with aquatic characters and monsters that are underwater.
Yeah. Hellboy, Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. And
not specifically Hellboy, Abe Sapien, but yeah, from the Hellboy movie.
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's one of the things that appealed to him about Hellboy was that character being in it. But anyway, it's just one of those things. I mean, he had a great life. I think he was 93.
Hell yeah! Wow. Hell yeah! That's
it's a great.
When you hear about so many people going at 50 and 60, and you're just fuck, that's so young, man. See somebody make it that long, that's awesome.
And he did the whole convention circuit for many years. I think he only stopped doing it pretty recently, in the last 2 or 3 years. So obviously he had good enough health to enjoy his life and enjoy people wanting to meet him and so it's just one of those things I just wanted to kind of acknowledge. And also he was a Florida guy, so it kind of grandfathers into the southern angle a little bit. But anyway, rest in power.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rico Browning, bucket of win, and thank you for everything you did for cinema.
Absolutely.
And for monsters.
Monsters everywhere.
What
there
about
would
you?
be no Monster Squad without you.
Oh, this is true.
Me, I don't have anything poignant like that, but I wanted to recommend a documentary. One that wouldn't really fit for us to review, but it kind of has some ties to the South. So I figured I would just use it here. This is a documentary. Yes, it's In Search of All American Massacre, the Lost Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, interesting. Is this new?
It is. Yeah, it's fairly new. I forget the exact. I think it was like 2020, maybe. But yeah, it's a documentary that is. Here, let me get the exact year. 2022. Yeah, it just came out last year. From director Edward Payson. But it's basically about this this movie called All American Massacre that was filmed, or at least the majority of it was filmed back in like 1999, 2000.
Sure.
And it was supposed to be a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like basically written and directed by William Hooper, Tobe Hooper's son. Bill Moseley was back in it as Chop Top. Buckethead played Leatherface in it. I think that's mainly because of the connection with Moseley, because Moseley and Buckethead played together and kind of were in a band together and stuff. But yeah, it was like this. They just made this like kind of low budget sort of sequel to the movie.
So unauthorized sequel type of thing.
Unauthorized, I guess, in the sense that maybe the studio didn't, but I mean, he was Tobe Hooper's son, and Tobe Hooper like came to set and I guess gave him his blessing and all that. So, but it's weird that this movie was shot presumably all of it, or at least a good majority of it, and then it just nothing ever happened with it. Never came out. And this documentary kind of goes in search of like trying to figure out what happened, why it hasn't came out. Like nobody wants to talk about it. They even try to get Moseley to come on and discuss it, and he declined to. And they only got like one guy that's playing the movie. I think he plays, if I remember correctly, it's been a few weeks since I watched the documentary, but I think he played Grandpa in it, if I remember correctly. And he's the only one that they could get to come on and talk about it and kind of talk about the making of it and stuff like that. And he really doesn't even have any rhyme or reason as to why it never has come out. But I thought it was fascinating. And you see some footage of the movie, and it looks pretty cheap, but it's just one of those things that I don't know, just have a fascination with stuff like that, like these time stamps, and just like, even if it's awful, just like to be able to experience that and watch something that, I mean, feels like it had a lot of passion to it, and it's this untold story that we never got, and it's just one of those things you kind of just want. It's like the original cut of like Wes Craven's Curse or something like that. It's just something that you want to be able to experience, whether it's good or bad,
Did the footage they show footage from the film, I'm assuming?
They show some, because there was like a trailer that was, that's one thing they kind of cover in the documentary. There was a trailer that was released back in the day, so there's footage of that, and there was like this storage unit that was sold off and was possibly selling some of the footage from the movie that was sitting in this storage unit, and they tried to buy some of it. Some of it was sold off, and I think they got a little bit of it, but it wasn't a whole lot of it or something. So yeah, like it's I don't guess it's a thing where it's like completely lost or anything. It's just never been released out for people to watch.
If you had to speculate, why did no one want to come back to talk about it, do you think? Just based on what you saw in the documentary, like
that's what I can't figure out, because from the one that they got, it seemed like everybody had a good time on it and everything, for the most part. So I can't understand. I don't know if the only reason there's also a couple people that passed away. So I mean, it couldn't really get them to talk about it. But
Tobe Hooper's son, is he still active?
I don't think, as far as like in
like mainstream
film or anything like that. I don't know what he does right now, but I don't think he's ever made anything else, not that I know of.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's and the website for it has went kind of live and then kind of falling off and then came back and stuff like that. There's always this tease of like it's going to come out, and I don't know if it's just one of those things where he's like perfectionist and it's just not right, and it's just one of those, I mean, it's one of those things where you got to eventually just let it be what it is, flaws and all, but I don't know, but I thought it was a fascinating, it only runs like an hour long, so the beginning of it's kind of slow because it's just people, some of the talking heads of people talking about their love of horror and how they love Texas Chainsaw Massacre before they really get into like showing a lot of the footage of it or talking to the actor that was in it. But it's still a short documentary. It's like an hour and 7 minutes. But I don't know. It's just one of those things that fascinated. When I first heard about it, I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't remember anything about this. And this, it was like in the Terror teletype in Fangoria back in the day. But I didn't really remember anything about it. And I was fascinated that it had Mosley in it and all that. But I don't know why he wouldn't talk about it. I don't know.
Well, where can you watch this?
It's on Tubi.
Tubi.
Yeah.
And say the title one more time.
In Search of All-American Massacre. Double check. I'm pretty sure that was it.
That's a good title. It was called All-American Massacre.
Yeah.
That's a cool title for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre like sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I guess it doesn't have the marquee value though, because I guess
Maybe because
studio,
it's not Texas.
Yeah, they
Chainsaw.
always want that in there, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, In Search of All-American Massacre, the Lost Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Why haven't they ever done a sequel where they go on the road?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would
Even
be.
if it was all still based in Texas, but just have these guys in an RV.
Yeah.
Make the scenario. It's like they have to be on the road. Almost like Devil's Reject style.
I was gonna say Zombie kind of did his
I guess
version
that
of
is
it.
true. That's true.
But to have like actual Leatherface and like Chop Top running around and all that,
that'd be interesting.
it would be fucking wild.
Yeah.
It'd be better than the sequels they've been giving us all these years.
Or even have them end up in like a very urban area and they're like out of their element and freaking out a little bit and maybe overreact to certain things, or you know what I mean? Like you kind of have a fish out of water scenario.
Yeah, could you imagine like Chop Top just picking his fucking plate with a wire hanger and just in the middle of like, I don't know, a busy street somewhere in the city or something.
Or even in like the suburbs. That would be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
They end up in like this like picturesque suburban nightmare for them.
Yeah,
where they're just like, where are we? Like...
Leatherface gets a job trimming hedges.
Like he goes to like one of those like upscale coffee shops and he's all like waiting in line, and scratching his plate, like no one wants to see that shit though. we just described a sequel no one would want.
I don't know. They watch all the other ones.
True. All right, so that does it for the Holler Kings. What's next up for us?
We are going to review the 1990s Martin Scorsese. I don't remember the exact year, but I know
1991.
91.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Scorsese flick Cape Fear.
It's true. Next time on the Holler Kings, Cape Fear. Thank you for joining us, Adam. Thank you for joining me.
Sir, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, until next time.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Oh.